So let's get right into our program on anti-aging, and your questions on any medical issue are welcome this hour at 800-259-5791. Welcome to the show, Joe Marian.
Good afternoon, Dr. Deagle. Let's give your listeners an opportunity to get the #1 natural nutrient just discovered, 3 patents on it. Indium, raising mineral absorption for the first time in history, 60 to 300% better than our mineral deficiency state that we're normally accustomed to.
Yeah, in fact, the minerals are the most important. Tell us why this is so important as a chaperone, because even if you're taking a good diet, even if you're taking minerals, this is going to amplify anything else you're doing, and without minerals, all the vitamins in the world will do absolutely nothing.
Even with the best diet in the world, we're only absorbing up to 20% of the minerals in the food we eat, and the rest go out as waste. So there's no point in paying for all this nutrition just to go down the waste. You may as well absorb them with this simple, easy nutrient. You just take 1 drop per 50 pounds of body weight first thing in the morning every day, and you can actually feel the difference. You see better, you hear better, you move better. You wonder why you're feeling so good today. It gets us out of the mineral deficiency state, which is the 4 to 14% consciousness or gland power that we're born with and we're normally accustomed to. But this evolutionary step allows us to get to level 2 of glandular function for the first time in history. And a lot of aching, nagging, chronic ailments tend to go into remission. People are experiencing cancers going into remission and being removed from the body. One lady had normal childhood disease markers in her blood previously, like scarlet fever and malaria, and now these are no longer testable in her blood. So it's good for circulation, it's good for muscle tone, it's good for bringing hair color back to normal color that you were born with, and everything in the body takes a step up in function.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things about the hair color is it's very just demonstrative of a thing called epigenetics, or outside the genes. And they discovered some years ago that the RNA actually switched on the DNA genes and actually made the genes make the very different flower colors and so on. So it turns the RNA is a switch, but the ultimate epigenetic control is minerals. And if you don't have intracellular zinc, magnesium, trace ions, molybdenum, whatever it is, all these 70-plus trace ionic minerals, some of them are quite exotic sounding, like europium, urbidium, strontium, etc. Not the strontium-90, but normal strontium. If you don't have these, your body can't function because certain genes are silenced if those minerals aren't present. And when those genes get silenced, for example, you stop making the pigment in your hair, which causes gray hair. When you take Indiumease, the remineralization actually reverses, in many people, their hair color, and many of the genes that are being silenced as you're literally aging is actually get reopened again, because the minerals keep those genes open. So we see the oldest living people on the earth drink the low-temperature coral calcium in Japan, or the other 17 of these 18 peoples all drink glacial milk that contain indium, but it's not even as good as the formula that you carry, because it's a pure, unadulterated, without any heavy metals or anything else. Indium chaperones all the other minerals into the body, so it's superior to even the thing that is giving more senior citizens in more countries around the world at a higher proportion. This is superior to that. Can you talk about that issue and why the oldest living peoples have these super high mineral content diets?
Absolutely. We've been studying indium for about 35 some years, and it took that long to figure out that you may have indium in some foods in trace amounts, but plants have a hard time picking it up. It's not that water soluble, so it only comes up in microgram amounts. So with this patent, the idea is that indium has to be taken all by itself, away from other foods for maximum absorption. Otherwise, it binds up with other food elements in the stomach and goes through undigestible. So by taking indium in our formula, the Indiumease, the silver bullet, it's the missing link, it actually is absorbed into the body, keys the DNA to pick up what they really want for fuel, rather than being deprived at the 4 to 14% level, and allows them to get up to 30, 40, 60% mineral absorption, and the cells are just singing for joy for the first time in history on a whole evolutionary leap that wasn't previously available.
Absolutely. We'll be back in a moment with Joe Marian, an amazing breakthrough of Indiumease. Get it today, the now super chaperone mineral. welcome back to the NUTRIMEDICAL Report. And the Indiumease, I try to tell people it's a chaperone. It almost brings those minerals in. So if you're taking things like the grown by nature vitamins, we're going to have a special for 2 hours on with the top scientists in Europe that developed this. But you don't get your full benefit from any vitamins, minerals, or anything unless you've got the minerals present inside the cells. In fact, the latest research, and this is what we talked about yesterday with Dr. Carlo, to protect you from electromagnetic pollution and the stress response, which literally closes the pores and the transport mechanisms for not just vitamins, minerals, everything, and causes cell damage, even DNA damage, is minerals. If you have magnesium inside the cell at supernormal levels, you don't get brain damage or spinal cord injury. You don't get oxidative damage. Your stem cells can tunnel in and differentiate. You can maintain normal cardiac action. You don't get weird calcification in different organs or in your arteries or the conduction bundles in your heart. The minerals make your brain make the neurotransmitters. They're part of the chemical reaction. Molybdenum, for example, is part of the chemical reaction to actually make your neurotransmitters. Your zinc is necessary for your cells to divide. If these minerals aren't present, the genes literally get switched off, and as they switch off, it's like going into a power plant and throwing off all the switches for the different machines. It just doesn't work. And when you return those on, the person's age clock is actually turned backwards. Can we talk about some of the research behind this and how important this particular step is in remineralizing the neural pathways in the brain, the enzymes, and the genes?
Yes, what we need to do is rebuild the glands so that they can actually function at an optimal level. As we age over 30, 40 years old and on, the neurotransmitters and the hormones start declining and falling off, and you start getting old and stiff, forgetful, and tired. And Indium allows you to sleep better. The first thing people report is that insomnia goes away. They get up an hour or two earlier in the morning with a lot more energy. Like some people report, I quote, "I needed less sleep and could work longer hours without fatigue, less stress. I was cheerful in the morning with fewer physical pains, buoyant during the day, and less tired to enjoy the evenings. I have boundless energy, no excess weight. I can think faster with less confusion." It's a whole nother level, a whole nother paradigm of living that is just pure joy. All these aching, nagging, chronic ailments tend to fall away or don't even happen.
Yeah.
And it's a whole nother experience that we can now enjoy for the first time in history.
Right. Now, the very first step to protect yourself from toxic pollution, from heavy metals, electromagnetics, and volatile chemicals like fluorides, etc., is remineralization. So Indiumease is for everyone, child and adult. Number one, it's not just for somebody with anti-aging. So the primary thing that's going to protect you from electromagnetic pollution and these other pollutants is Indiumease. Then you need the minerals like living mineral probiotic, grown by nature minerals, these high-quality ionic minerals like magnesium taurate that we carry from Ecological. And when you do that, that's the first step. Second step is antioxidant protection with whole foods like Uri, the Feast, which we're going to talk with the experts on next week. But the first step is to remineralize. When you take things like polyphenols like anti-age max resveratrol to activate what's called the SIRT1 gene that actually stops and slows aging, it needs to be on a template of proper mineralization inside the cells. I now have absolute proof that, and we have new tests now, we talk about this with lab directors, that if you measure intracellular mineral levels, it is one of the best single markers of aging is if your mineral levels are at the levels of what you'd expect a healthy person in their early 20s. And if you could maintain or bring those mineral levels back at age 70 or 80, many of the genes we call aging actually would just reverse. So a lot of the time if we're trying to see if we can achieve stem cells that will actually take hold, only maybe at 2 or 3%, we're going to work on researching and increasing this. And in fact, one of the things we're going to be doing is having Indiumease tested independently at Dr. David Steenblock's lab and other supplements to see how it affects stem cells and stem cell rejuvenation, because you have to have a higher number take, you have to have those cells fully differentiate and turn into those cells, whether it's new kidney or brain cells. But the most important step for that to happen is remineralization, magnesium and all the trace ionic minerals and macrominerals like zinc, etc., or it just doesn't work. And that's what's going to make a big difference in terms of these really amazing therapies like putting an intravenous with multiplied billions of times mesenchymal stem cells that are transformed into nerve cells, muscle cells, As simple as this is the very first and most important step. So I just think for adults and children, for everyone, even pets, this is important. And if you look at the soil, it's the same thing. Everybody that's eating good organic food that's grown on good living soil, that's not been killed with pesticides and with fertilizers, that soil, the farmer's in a sense an organic miner. Well, in a sense, if the minerals are not in the food, it's not in your body. And if it's not in your body, those genes can't work. Those chemical reactions need minerals to even catalyze the reactions. And so you have to go back to these basics, or you're just not going to stay healthy. We know that diabetes is going up primarily because of demineralization. Dementia is going up. Heart disease is going up. Attentional disorders, birth defects, electromagnetic pollution, allergies, autoimmune diseases, all of these things are linked to demineralization. Any comments, Joe?
Absolutely. Like, for instance, magnesium, very, very important for hundreds of enzymes in the body, for food digestion, and for destroying cancer cells, and for catabolizing different neurotransmitters and things like ATP, the energy molecule. Even children with attention deficit disorder are starting to learn English and math better because the neurotransmitters in the brain are being produced at a sufficient level to overcome their deficiency, and now they're becoming normal again. And we'd like to see some tests with some of the more serious autism and Down syndrome and some of those disorders. We think that when parents are fueled on indium, their children will be born without the major birth defects that are currently experienced.
Yeah, in fact, the research that's really interesting from Dr. Carlo and his group of scientists around the world is they're discovering that even the formation of micronuclei, this is a chunk of DNA or chromosome that literally not only can be extruded from the cell and the cell dies, but it's covered by an envelope of membranes, so it can sit there and then clone itself with nutrients and literally create multiple copies. And in fact, their research is now suggesting that this is one of the major causes of tumors, autoimmune disease, and one of the major factors causing aging is actually accumulated micronuclei in the extra or outside the cell space. These don't occur if you have proper mineralization. That's really interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting that these micronuclei are a direct measure of radiation from typical radiation and from electromagnetic or toxic pollution. They don't occur when you have proper mineral levels inside your cells, so it's a very, very good marker of the whole aging process.
And everyone's talking about national health care and going in the wrong direction of having insurance, as if money could buy you health.
Right.
It's not insurance, it's consciousness, it's brain power, it's indium remineralizing the glands so they can operate on a higher level.
Yeah.
Indium and eating organic and power foods is the national health care plan that they should be pushing.
It's the only health care plan.
Up on.
Yeah, I believe in trauma. I'm a trauma burn doctor, but trauma and burn medicine, everybody should have catastrophic high-level insurance, have a health savings account, but no drug plans. Forget it. Have a high deductible, high catastrophic. In fact, you have to have higher limits than just $2 million, maybe $10 million, because you can get really seriously in need in hospital. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to the NutriMedical Report, and we also have some questions from those that are listening, those that have taken Indiumease already. I call it the now nutraceutical. As soon as you take it, literally within seconds, you know something's happening, something good. You feel more alert, you feel more kind of aware of everything around you, intellectually and spiritually, and it has effects not just on the, I call it the temple, the body, but on the mind and spirit, because it opens you up to become more aware of things. Part of the reason why people aren't responding to the challenges of our world, whether they're geopolitical or their own health challenges or financial or making bad choices, is because many parts of their brain, besides their genome, are being silenced. Their brain's not working properly because those neural pathways that regulate their hormones, that regulate their thought patterns, that keep coherence between one area of the cortex and the other, they keep them in a stable balance so they accomplish all they have to do each day without being so stressed. And in fact, the stress response, which Hans Selye did 50 years ago, his research, proved now that this response is what happens in the body when the body is demineralized. It's reversed, so it puts you back in a state of rest, a state of in a sense, Sabbath, a state of protection, a state of activation of genes, but it also opens up your spirit. You become much more spiritually enlightened, and mentally alert, and your intelligence has a broader dimensionality to it, so you can understand things, you can analyze things, you can multitask without being running from pillar to post. Can you give us some examples of that, if you could, Joe? Because this is I would call, there's some nutraceuticals I call remarkable. This is one of the amazing ones. When you take Indiumease, you say, wow, there's something going on. I don't know, you don't know exactly what's happening, but you know immediately something's happening, not only at an intellectual but a spirit level. And then you notice over the next weeks that your energy level goes up. You notice your body just starts to change. You know that if you're diabetic, you get much better. Your weight comes down. You get more fit. You can tolerate more stress. It's just amazing what this does to the body.
Yes, absolutely. A simple example is, if you could have enough chromium and vanadium and calcium in the body, you would never have diabetes.
Right.
Some of these effects, you do feel some effects, but some you don't feel. It's just absorbing, it's placing the sugar better, raising the chromium, increasing the insulin, and protecting you from high blood pressure and all the other diabetic problems of limb amputation eventually, blindness in the eyes, circulation problems, and this thing is working inside and outside the body. The body, mind, and spirit all have to evolve together. You can't have one getting too far ahead of the other.
Well,
so
that's
in order
why
to build up the mind and spirit, you have to have health of body in order to have the time and the leisure time and the educational value to let the mind and the spirit catch up with it.
Well, actually, yeah, and I try to teach these higher spiritual truths too to people all the time, because for example, in ancient Israel and all cultures, if you want to call it the healers of those peoples right around the world, whether we consider them Western or Eastern or ancient or native, they all had to deal with the mind, body, and spirit as a unit. You can't separate them. If your body is toxic from heavy metals or depleted uranium or lead or mercury, you're not going to think straight. You're not going to be able to be good. In fact, if you look at some of the behaviors of people that are exposed, for example, they did a study at the Dr. Alex Schoss at the Biosocial Research Institute, when he looked at hair analysis of manganese, toxic levels of manganese, not the good manganese, but bad, or deficiencies of minerals in their hair. He found tremendous deficiencies of magnesium, chromium, all kinds of other things that occurred in people with criminal behavior. So the brain functions normally, the organs function normally, the body is not diabetic, you don't have hypertension. In fact, the primary cause of hypertension is just demineralization. Primary cause of diabetes and cancer, because when your immune system is remineralized, it takes care of abnormal cells and just cleans them up and gets rid of them. Or the DNA repairs itself so it doesn't become abnormal. It's that simple. It goes right back to the ancient plan. In a sense, this is the Sabbath of your body. When you take indium in, you're remineralizing the body and activating those genes, because the minerals turn the genes on.
Right. The original plan for the human body was for it to last probably about 500 years.
Yeah,
so we're only one-fifth of the way through on our evolutionary journey.
Well,
we have to help that. We can either, go along with the natural program, or we can be fighting the natural program. So obviously, which way do we want to go?
Well, in fact, we had Dr. Gallegos and others on stem cells at our conference just 3.5 weeks ago. And we now can actually bank today, believe it or not. We're going to have Dr. Gallegos on as well, but we're going to have Dr. Steenblock on next week. When you give stem cells to people, only about 2% take. And Dr. Steenblock is probably one of the most successful, because he's a complete holistic doctor, practices about 35 years. He has all the technologies to amplify it, but absolutely, if you don't get rid of the heavy metals, if you don't remineralize the tissue, you can't just give somebody a slug of stem cells and figure they're going to heal. You've got to clean the soil. It's like he says, a good Iowa farm boy where he was raised. You've got to put the minerals in the soil. You've got to have the nutrients there. You've got to fix the nitrogen. If you don't, those seeds aren't going to take and become, 14-foot tall corn plants like the Living Earth probiotic. This is what you've got to do to your body. And the problem right now is people aren't facing these basics. They want to reach for $2,000 family extended wonderful health plan, and all it is just insurance that you're going to make a bunch of drug companies and nursing facilities really rich when you get into a problem because you haven't addressed the real issue. It's like having bad wiring in your house and you decide not to get better wiring, but you want to have a really good sprinkler system when your house goes in fire. That's how stupid our current healthcare system is. We need to have trauma care, emergency care, catastrophic for everybody, but beyond that, there's no way they should have a, quote, nationalized health plan. National health plan is a disaster. It allows the drug companies to try to force the drugs. At the same time, in places we call the potty-to-pot water gets in your food supply, like in California here, with Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, and at the same time, he wants to put in a statewide health plan. All you need is catastrophic insurance, and people will be able to write off their supplements so that they can do. And by the way, anybody who contacts me, I will give them a note saying that any supplements they get, they can write them off in taxes. I've never had a problem with the IRS ever harassing any of my people for years. Or in other countries like Canada, Britain, they can always write them off because you are a liability. You're a liability to the government. As a further move toward this with national health care, which they're doing, you need to take care of yourself. You're a walking liability is what you are. And the ideal thing is to have populations of people 80, 100, 150 years of age, still healthy and alert, not nursing facilities, still productive, using their vast knowledge, experience, and wisdom. And that's the real deficiency in our culture. It's not energy, it's not fuel, it is lack of wisdom, and that comes with taking care of your body and mind. So when you're really old, you're also really sharp, you're alert, and you can play golf, you can play tennis, you can play chess, and you can win. And we need to give that back to people because this culture doesn't respect the elderly. It doesn't, not like Japan, which is why the people there live old. It says in the Bible, may you respect your mother and your father so your days will be prolonged. Well, to respect them, you've got to care for them just like you care for a garden. You've got to put the minerals in, you've got to nurture them, and nurturing your own body requires remineralization.
Right. There's two paths, basically. You either live under the laws of consciousness or you live under the laws of accident.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
your choice.
I like that, accident or consciousness. In fact, I call them an accident or an on purpose. And those who want to buy fancy health insurance and get big drug plans so they can have at least 10 different pills clicking around inside their stomach, rather than eating whole foods from local farmers, remineralizing your body and making sure their water is filtered, those people, to me, like Gnarls Barkley in his little song, those people who believe this BS, they're crazy. And I've been in the medical profession a third of a century, and there is nothing more corrupt on this earth than the medical profession. If you would disagree with me,
God intended us to be supermen and superwomen.
Right.
All we have to do is pay attention and make use of the gifts that He's put here free
well,
in the background of the earth.
Yeah, the oldest of people don't have health care. They don't have health care. They have care of the land. The land owns them, not the other way around, as the native people says, right?
Absolutely.
We'll be back in just a moment with Joe Marian and a remarkable Indiumease. Get it today, 3-pack, 6-pack specials. You'll be amazed for yourself, for your children, your pets. It'll change your life. We'll be back in just a moment with Joe Marian.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions had an echo in so much space. And when you're out there, without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough.
Welcome back to the NUTRIMEDICAL Report, and Joe Marian, your questions and comments are welcome at 800-259-5791, 800-259-5791. In hours 2 and 3, we're going to be joined today by Mike Rivera. What really happened? And, of course, Mike's program is every evening here on Genesis Network Central Standard Time and on the weekend, and Mike's been probably one of the most accurate analysts of what's going on, all the way from long before Oklahoma City to right through 9/11, all the issues in dealing with geopolitics and other things, and we deal with a lot of health issues as well. Mike has a broad range of journalistic background, very sharp mind, and he'll have some remarkable things to say, so don't miss hours 2 and 3 on Stream 2 GCN Live. And also, do help us at NutriMedical. Get into your local radio station, contact GCN, and ask Nick Leash. He's our program manager for Genesis at extension 166. The phone number to call is 877-996-4327, 877-996-4327, and get the program all or just one of the hours on your local radio station, either live or rebroadcast. Will help you in every way. We have a KU band digital satellite feed for all of North and South America. Soon we'll have a digital feed from a Star Guide directly out of New York City. Our digital technology now is all complete. We're just getting our lineup of shows ready to go on this new digital satellite feed. And we need the program in your local stations to support us. We appreciate your supporting our sponsors like Indiumease by purchasing at the NutriMedical website or calling us, and so many other amazing sources like eFoods Direct, Soladay, many other companies that really help us to be on the air, because it costs a lot to be on the air, to get these satellite feeds, technology, tech support, computer software upgrades, which you're going to see a lot of new ones, and we try to keep it all free so that you can get our archives free on NutriMedical. They're all cross-indexed, and we're catching those up now. We get some more tech support now that our studios have moved to Southern California. Can you give us some testimonials, if you can, Joe, on some of the most remarkable stories you've had, people taking Indiumease? You mentioned a few earlier in the hour. But people that have had all kinds of problems, from Alzheimer's, heart disease, heart failure, diabetes, cancer, many of these, their body, once you supply the body with the proper nutrients, like I tell people, every day the body defeats cancer. It's not a miracle. It's something that the body does. It's when it doesn't happen and those cells start to grow out of control. Same with infection. Our body is a seething war zone against pathogens. Your blood is not sterile. It's loaded with viruses, bacteria, fungi, mycelia. You can actually see it on dark field. And people are told this lie that somehow the body is not a battlefield. Yes, but if you have the right nutrients, your body can thrive and survive and not be damaged by electromagnetic and other pollution. Can you give some testimonials?
Yes, definitely. It started out with Dr. Henry Schroeder at Dartmouth Medical University testing indium and finding out that the mice he studied had 26 to 42% fewer cancers and malignant tumors. And that's been corroborated by many individuals using the Indiumease. We've had people with different tumors in the body, which the doctors had actually verified. And one lady in particular was taking indium for 3 or 4 months and came back, and the doctors recommended removing the cancers. And so she allowed them to do that, and they went in and removed the tumors, and they tested it, and the tumor had been encapsulated. In other words, it was going into remission, and the immune system had actually started encapsulating it so it couldn't spread and metastasize through the body.
Wow.
And other people with terminal prostate cancers were actually cured after a little while using indium and the Qigong machine of Dr. Simon Wang. And so many people have had cancers put into remission and absolutely survived and are still living today. Very, very happy, with no problems. And people with all other kinds of things like varicose vein pains disappeared, and the blue varicose veins tended to, over time, start reddening up and became normal again after 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, quite amazing.
And people with depression. I have one man up in Vancouver, British Columbia, who, after taking indium for a few weeks, he said, if this is what normal is like, I can't believe how I wasted my life with all these antidepressant drugs and all that didn't do anything for it.
Well,
he takes indium consistently all the time, and he's off his drugs and feeling normal again, just with remineralization.
Yeah, that's what's amazing about this. I also try to convince people that they need to know that these drugs are quite toxic. If you actually know what kind of a being we are, we have a physical body, and our brain is not our mind. Our mind is, in a sense, equivalent to our soul. It's not, doesn't exist in this energetic realm. It exists in the higher astral realms, and it's connected. And it's connected to the pineal gland and the basal nuclei. And things like fluoride salts of SSRI drugs and toxic pollutants literally cut that connection off. And you cannot be a true sentient spirit man unless your body is detoxified, remineralized, and healthy. And we look at the great patriarchs of the ancient world. These people were not numbering years incorrectly. When they said they started doing such and such at 80 or 120 or 150 years, they really did that. Those things were accomplished by people that literally lived centuries. And there probably are people that literally live on the earth now that actually live much older than we can imagine, but they're just not availed to the regular population because these people have learned some of these amazing arts, and it's not open to the public because the public wouldn't believe it. They wouldn't believe that technology is going to make human lifespan extend not just 5 or 10%, but by multiples. And literally, the Methuselah Mouse Project with Aubrey de Grey, it starts with remineralization. He's put a big award out there for people to extend the Methuselah mouse. Well, the very first step, no matter what you do, whether it's stem cells or trying to normalize growth hormone or sex hormones or thyroid, you cannot catalyze any of the reactions unless you remineralize and turn on the genes. And I cannot stress this so much. It's not even proven. And in fact, I have the PowerPoint from Dr. Carlo up today on there about electromagnetics. Even electromagnetic pollution, it's 1,000,000 times more than 10 years ago. Even a neurotrauma like a closed head injury and spinal cord contusion, if you have supernormal magnesium levels with something like MagneSoothe with all its ionic minerals, it can't get into the cells unless, optimally and maximally, unless you have indium. So you can do all of the things you want. It's like, it's like not drinking enough water. So you're dying with lots of food but no water in the middle of the desert. Well, if you don't have water, you die. Without minerals,
same as you don't have the minerals.
Without the minerals, you die.
The whole thing is to rebuild the glands so they're actually operating at their full potential rather than just limping along at 5 to 20% efficiency.
Exactly.
People are reporting glaucoma eyeball pressure going back down to normal after several months, and things like adult type 2 diabetes. People are reducing their insulin shots, getting off their insulin shots, rebuilding their pancreas so it can put out its insulin and all the other factors that it needs to put away the blood sugar. And liver damage, people are actually being able to drink more alcohol and have less hangovers and less downtime with the indium because the liver's working 2 or 3 times more efficiently.
Exactly, and that's what I think is quite amazing is that it works on every process in the body. It doesn't just work on one, it works on countless thousands. We probably know only about 3 to 5% of all the metabolic processes within the body. This works on all of them, even the ones that we've never investigated, never understand, and don't even know how the natural molecules in whole food work in our body to rejuvenate us. That's why when we see abominations like genetically modified food, these have unstable genes that can get into our body and literally self-replicate in these spaces between the tissues. You can't let your body be exposed to toxins and allow your body to be demineralized. And once you fix that problem, everything else, whether it's blood pressure, blood sugar, your ability to tolerate stress, just goes away. You need to have a clean temple if you're going to be able to make good decisions in our very, very crazy world. Thank you, Joe Marian. I'm Indiumease. Get it today, 888-212-8871, 888-212-8871, or go right to NUTRIMEDICAL. That's INDIUMEASE. That makes the whole world easy when you take Indiumease. We'll be back in just a moment with Mike Rivero, and you don't want to miss these next 2 hours with Mike Rivero. His website, whatreallyhappened.com. His shows every evening here on Genesis Network and on the weekend. Remarkable journalist and analyst. We'll be back in just a moment. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. Have a great afternoon.
You're welcome, everyone, and we'll be back in just a few moments, so don't change that dial. Get us on your local radio station. We'll be back in just a moment.